If you are trying to lose weight and you are wondering if you should be counting calories or not, then this video is just for you. I will be discussing all the pros and cons of counting calories. I will be sharing my own experience with a coach who made me track everything. And I will be sharing a simple approach to finding out what works for you. Hi, my name is Misha and I'm a nutritional lifestyle coach, and I help moms in midlife who are ready to focus on themselves again. Together, we change our lifestyle habits, we feel energized again, shift those stubborn pounds and embrace our changing bodies, all while living our best midlife. If you are tired of all the quick fix diets and you are looking for sustainable, feel-good approach to losing weight, building healthy lifestyle habits, then this channel is just the right place for you. Hit subscribe, tap the notification button to receive regular insights and tips. And don't forget to grab my free guide to kickstart your journey. It's called Midlife Reset, 7 Key Areas of Change. And you will find a link to this free guide below in the description. Okay, so let's talk about all the pros of calorie counting and why so many people love calorie counting. So I would say the number one advantage of calorie counting is that you have a really good understanding how many calories or how much energy you're consuming, and therefore you can easily understand how to create energy deficit. Because of course, without energy deficit, we are not going to lose weight. So yes, this is basically number one advantage, I believe, and why so many people are tracking calories is to understand what's their energy deficit. And also, not calories are equal. Let's be real and let's make that clear, of course. It gives you a really good picture, and it's a really good tool to understand what's going into your body and how many calories perhaps you have to burn to create that deficit to be able to lose weight. Another case for counting calories is basically awareness and accountability, because so many of us, and I'm definitely guilty of this, we just basically underestimating what we are eating, and it's so easily done. Believe me, there were so many cases when I ate that, little piece of cake, and suddenly I looked at the packaging and realized that, the calories I just eaten equaled like a, lunchtime meal. That happens to me, actually quite regularly, right? Let's be honest here. I think it happens to us all the time to us. And this is why calorie counting is, or at least checking the food labels, right? Just to be aware before we eat it. If we do want to lose weight, if we are on that fat loss journey, of course. If we're not, it's all great. But yes, so accountability and awareness is another important case for counting calories, as it definitely will keep you on the track and it will not allow you to underestimate portions that you're eating. So many people basically want to count calories because it gives them, well, not just control, but also more flexibility, right? So because you know how many calories, what energy you're consuming, then you can build in perhaps, a couple of treats, or, if you go into a party, right, how many calories you're consuming again. So you kind of build in that space for that, let's say, piece of cake, right? But let's not treat this as a free pass to eat any junk food, because that is definitely not going to be helpful. If you think, as long as I'm within this amount of calories, I can still be losing weight, I would really not recommend that approach, because eating junk food, let's call it, sugary foods, is just really going to make your journey so difficult. It will send your blood sugar levels on a roller coaster. You will constantly crave foods because you're going to have that, kind of up and down blood sugar levels. And yes, again, it will make your journey really difficult, and you probably won't last long. This is why people just don't last long when they're trying to lose weight with their diets, because they are not eating the right food. So this one, just let's approach it. Let's be a bit cautious about it. Yes, it gives you flexibility, but let's be mindful about that flexibility. Let's concentrate on whole foods. and nutrient dense food before, of course, we're thinking about any candies or anything like that. But you can, of course, build in that space for that slice of cake or whatever you want that treat to be, or, when you go into that celebrations, whatever you want to have. So yes, it gives you a little bit more flexibility, that's for sure. Okay, so there are actually multiple studies that are showing to us that calorie counting is very beneficial in terms of people trying to lose weight and actually keeping it off. So if you look at a group of people who are counting calories versus those that are not counting calories, the first group is more likely to lose weight and keep it off versus the second group. I guess it makes sense. Okay, so let's have a look at the cases against calorie counting. So the first one I want to highlight is that not all calories are equal. So this one is really important one. And I think very obvious one. I'm sure very obvious one, but it's also important to understand certain details within this one, right? So if you're eating, let's say candy bar versus piece of fruit or meat, of course, first of all, the nutrients within this food, if you compare, candy bar versus piece of fruit, you can't really compare them, right? So we have to be careful to understand the nutritional values within food and not just concentrate on the calorie count, because that can become really unhealthy very quickly. And the second point, which when we're trying to lose fat, is very important to understand that our body actually processes different foods and different macronutrients in a different way, right? So for example, if we're eating some protein, let's say a piece of chicken versus potatoes, so carbs, our body is going to use more energy. It's going to burn more energy to process protein versus carbs, right? So when we're eating this piece of chicken, we're going to burn more calories. So this is very important to understand. And again, just highlighting that not all calories are equal. I've just been mentioning these lovely walnuts. They contain a lot of fat, a lot of lovely fiber, a lot of good nutrients for our brain health and a lot of other functions. So yeah, we cannot compare, how our body is going to process this versus, for example, some junk food, right? Some ultra processed piece of burger, right? So yeah, we have to be careful, have to be mindful, but about the fact that, calorie counting, we need to be mindful of the nutrients we're consuming. And in terms of that, not all calories are equal. Definitely not all calories are equal. There's definitely some potential for obsession. So some individuals are more prone to this than others, of course. But yes, some individuals can become a little bit addictive to calorie counting and not wanting to eat anything before they know calories it contains. And, that is not healthy relationship with food. So we definitely have to be mindful. If you think you might be a person prone to obsess about things like this, then you might want to rethink that, take a step back and find a different approach. Okay, so another case against calorie counting is that calorie counting does not consider all the biological complexities that we have. For example, our metabolism. So of course, some people have slower metabolism, some people have more efficient metabolism, and also it doesn't consider, differences in hormones, especially us as women in midlife. We can have hormones all over the place, right? And calorie counting is just, again, considering all calories are equal, does not consider all these complexities that we have as individuals. So that can cause a lot of frustration if, for example, based on your calorie deficit, you're expecting certain results, but they're just not coming. Yes, so that is definitely another downside of calorie counting, and something what we have to be mindful of. We know of our complexities, our lifestyle habits, How is your stress like? Is your lifestyle very stressful? That will probably cause issues with, your hormones, and perhaps slow your metabolism down. So yes, again, let's not forget about all our individual complexities as human beings. I have a lot of experience with counting calories, and I don't like to use the tool all the time. But I do find it useful at certain periods of my life, at certain times when, of course, I'm trying to lose weight. And actually, I had once a very negative experience with counting calories, which completely made me to quit the whole losing weight journey. And that was when I was actually working with a coach, nutritional coach, if you believe or not. And he requested me to log in every day, calories and macros. And his whole approach was literally just based, I would say literally 98% based around numbers, which completely demotivated me. I just couldn't believe, he was not educating me about anything in terms of nutrition, because I am a firm believer that all the empowerment comes from education, and it was all about numbers. So basically, it made me frustrated, demotivated, and I just quit. So this is one of my worst experience in terms of counting calories. However, as I said, I used it many times on my kind of weight loss journeys, which I had a few throughout my life. I use it normally to get myself on track, to remind myself of portion control, because it's so easy to slip, isn't it? We go on holiday, life happens, and we have one treat, two treats, too many, and we kind of add a little bit more on that plate, and we keep adding. And there is a point when I'm like, okay, actually, I need to lose a few pounds at this point, and I need to remind myself of portion control. So I would not want to count calories every day all my life. I mean, I don't think it's very sustainable. However, for me personally, I'm sure there are people who, find it sustainable, and that is fair enough. But I use it as a tool when I want to remind myself of the calorie count, of the portion control, which is very useful, and something what I would definitely recommend for other people to do as well. Okay, guys, apologies for the microphone noise. I will really try not to touch it for the rest of the video. I have not realized how much noise it's making. Okay, so for those of us who do not want to count calories, or of course in the situations when it's not very convenient to count calories, I have some tips, some visual cues that you can be using. So the first one is for protein, and it's recommended to use size of your palm. So basically have a palm size portion of protein. So, or for example, have one fish fillet, one chicken breast, or again, palm size portion of protein. The next one is for carbs, and it's recommended to have a fist size portion of carbs. So for example, rice or potatoes. And this one can be particularly difficult, but stick with it. If you're trying to lose fat, you will definitely get used to it. Okay, so the next recommendation is for portion of fat, and it's recommended to have thumb size portion of fats, like for example, butter or salad dressing. Next recommendation is for vegetables, and just pile them up on your plate. There is no restriction. They are dense in nutrients and you need them, and actually it's impossible to overeat on vegetables, so go for it. I got also other practical and useful tips in terms of portion control. So for example, one that I think is really well known is to use small plates. It definitely works well. It just makes you feel like you have eaten more than really you have. So it's definitely useful. Another one is don't eat out of packaging. Just, put it on that plate, because it's really easy to overeat when you eat out of packaging. I think everyone would agree to that. The next really useful tip is to meal prep, and, basically cook your meals from scratch, because you know what ingredients you're using, and in terms of meal prepping, you basically know what portions, or when you're measuring your portions or weighing or whatever, however weigh, how much depends on you, how much control you want to have. But definitely meal prepping is so useful in terms of portion control. And then the last one, but not least, is to be mindful in terms of your snacking and keep your snacks if you can. And, you can, of course, check the labels as well. And the 150 calories, that is at least my recommendation, and that is what works for me. So I guess you are wondering, what is the right approach for you? And that really depends on so many factors. It depends on your personality, depends on your needs, on your goals. And as we discussed, balanced approach is what I would recommend. But of course, that might not be the best approach for you. So I'm kind of counting when I feel like I want to get back in control, want to remind myself of how the portions should look like for my specific scenario. And then, I use kind of visual cues and portion control other times. But, you might be different kind of personality who want to be in control all the time. However, first of all, I would recommend to concentrate on the actual nutrient density of food, and to eat unprocessed food, to eat whole foods. And then, of course, be mindful of the portion sizes, and be mindful of calories. Of every food contains energy. That's why we eat it. However, try not to obsess about the exact amount of calories. It's very helpful as a tool, but let's just use it as a guide. Let's not obsess about, plus 50, plus minus 50 calories or whatever it might be. It's just useful there as a guide. And then, of course, practice portion control, even without strict calorie counting. It can be very useful just to be mindful of the portions that you're eating, and can definitely help not to overeat. I would, of course, recommend professional help, like, for example, one-on-one coaching, which is exactly what I'm doing with my clients. So I look at their specific goals, their specific lifestyle habits and circumstances, and we build a personalized program just for them. If this is something what you're interested, check out my one-on-one program, which you can find linked to in the description of this video. I would love to hear from you. Have you tried calorie counting? Did it work for you? Did it not? Drop your story in the comments below. If you have enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more tips on nutrition in midlife, healthy lifestyle habits, and simply living our best midlife. Thank you.